Hi everybody, review recap, P-Town, Pink. We see Mercedes. Mercedes is basically have a private client and she's performing for him, and he wants to basically have Mercedes set up with a condo basically in Memphis. He told Mercedes that he was basically really serious about her coming to stay with him. Mercedes says, no, we can't do that. You couldn't take it. And so we move on. We move on and we see basically Autumn. Autumn is basically at a wig shop. She's looking for, I guess, another look. So she comes upon this long blonde wig. She puts this long blonde wig on, and it's basically what she really wants. Now, in this long blonde wig, we see that she's really working out. She's really getting paid and everything. And Mercedes is not really feeling it. But then we have Alex. Alex is really smitten by Autumn. Autumn really don't want to be bothered with with him, but of course, Uncle Clifford wants her to find out some more information about what's going on with that casino. And then this is when he tells her what's going on with your client. Have you able to find out any more tea for me? And she basically said no. He said, okay, well, no ID, no ID, no tea. In other words, if you don't bring me back any information, you don't get back your ID, because Uncle Clifford knows that there's something going on with this fake ID that basically she had been pointing around as her information. Andre, Andre has basically is hanging out with his mayor. And apparently the mayor is basically up to no good. When I say up to no good, we find out a little bit more about what the intentions of the promised land when it comes to the mayor. The mayor basically wants to take the promised land and name that casino after him. Alex is kind of upset because he knows this was basically not the plan, but the mayor says basically you need to go ahead on through with this plan. Andre finally texts uh, um, Autumn again, and Autumn is basically getting tired because he keeps texting her and texting her until finally she gives in and agreed to meet with him. And so the both of them is at the restaurant and they are having a breakfast. So we find out that Andre basically let Autumn know that he is married because she basically saw the ring on his finger, and he basically tells her what her name is. And then this is when Autumn tries to find out some more information about the casino, and then Andre looks around and say, "Look, this is confidential." And so uh, Autumn is basically, why is this so hush hush hush? And so this is when we see an old man. He's basically having a story about a couple that was stayed together, and he tells them that they look good together, but he tells them the story about an old couple that basically traveled together, and basically one of the persons died. And this story really touches Autumn because she basically has a tear in her face because the old man said, "I don't wonder how does it feel to carrying death around you on your back all the time." So I guess that kind of struck a moment for her because she was kind of like getting back into basically the area where she is visiting. She didn't really visit. The story took to her. So we see this huge land with cotton, and we see Corbett. Corbett is basically on this huge tractor trailer harvesting the cotton. And then all of a sudden, way in the front, we see this bright, blazing red, and it's Uncle Clifford. Uncle Clifford has a bonnet on and a hat and an umbrella, and he's basically coming up to uh, Corbett and telling Corbett, "Oh, I see you like to basically keep secrets. You been basically keeping some secrets from me." And so this is when Corbett basically went in on a little bit to let Uncle Clifford know what was basically going on with the casino. And so Uncle Clifford was basically excited to hear about what was going on with the casino because Uncle Clifford's really thinking that he's really, really going to be in the money. Patricia, we see Mercedes' mother basically at the church, basically practicing her speech in the pulpit. And then all of a sudden, we see Mercedes coming up to her mother and basically telling her mother, "Look, I'm going to need that 20 stacks. I'm going to need that 20 stacks." And so basically, her mother kind of tried to, act like she didn't hear, but she heard her. And Mercedes says, "I'm gonna need that 20 stacks." And of course, Mercedes' mother basically was in church. Well, we got a bit of an issue. The issue is that there is a bitch party about to take place, right? And this bitch party, is given by the Chuckalista. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And Mercedes Chunkalista's girls decided that they wanted to give a party, and they're advertising it all on social media. And Mercedes basically saw this, and they was advertising the Chunkalistas in parts of their uniforms because it had the Chunkalistas logo all on the butt. And so she's talking to her girls, and the girls are basically upset that Mercedes found out. And Mercedes says, "What were you all thinking on?" And so one of the girls said, "Well, we were basically going to put it on Snapchat, that goes away instantly. It only stays there for like maybe I think 24 hours, and then all of a sudden it disappeared." And then this other one said, "Well, Miss Mercedes, we have the right to express uh, our sexual identity." And this went Mercedes, "I don't want to hear that crap. Forget all about your feminism." And so this is when Tara, I think that's her name. Tara, might be wrong. Said, "Well, um, you do it. So what's the big issue?" And this is when Mercedes basically looked and said, "Look, she was just like really upset, but due to the fact that she's really, really, into her girls, and she really wants them to basically do something for themselves." And so we see Mississippi and Mercedes and Gidget. Man, this performance and this set that they basically are going to be doing is going to be really, really good. And then all of a sudden, Mississippi and Gidget was the only one that's there. And then all of a sudden, Mercedes comes in, and Gidget said, "You're late." And Mercedes said, "Yeah, I'm late. I had to deal with some little bitchs." And so she says, "Okay, let's get it cracking." So you see all three of them basically practicing this scene that they're back basically is going to be doing uh, later on in the evening. And so we see that Mississippi is basically having some problems. She's having some problems due to the fact that she has damaged or injured her wrist again. So she basically had to come off the pole and come down. So Mississippi goes inside and at the kitchen, and who do we see? We see Diamond. Diamond is there, but Diamond basically has scared Mississippi. So Diamond says, "What's going on?" And she tells Diamond that she basically had injured herself again. But we know what the deal is, right? We really, really know what the deal is. And so we see that Diamond basically put together an old remedy that he basically did while he was in the service. So Diamond wraps her wrist up and asks Mississippi, "When are you going to get tired of hurting yourself?" And then this is when we began to see the chemistry between Mississippi and Diamond. And we know that eventually they are going to get together because they are attracted to each other. But they almost looks like they almost tried to kiss, but that was broken up with Uncle Clifford basically hollering for Mississippi to come and basically come and get their daughter. Now, remember that practice that the three of Gidget and Mississippi and Mercedes was doing well. That scene was like to know, and it was fabulous the way they was introduced. Of course, Uncle Clifford came in, of course, with his usual style, and they were really, really performing. But this is when it gets interesting. Oh, drunken! When I say drunken, I'm talking about um, Autumn. Autumn comes in. Autumn's basically been drinking all night long, so she's a pissy drunk. She goes to the bar, asks the bartender for a drink, and bartender says, gives her a shot of water, and Autumn says, "This is water," and this is when the bartender said, "You need to basically calm down. You need to calm yourself down." So, of course, Autumn's not really listening to what the bartender. So she decided that she wants to take her little sloppy self onto the stage, right? And so Uncle Clifford said, "All right, y'all, here come my other new mystery girl," and Autumn decides that she wants to try her hand at the pole. Now I never seen Autumn at the pole, and of course she didn't know what she was doing. You could tell she didn't know what she was doing because she was really sloppy to a point where she came down the pole and basically made a mistake. And so this is when Uncle Clifford said, "Oh God, somebody get this woman off the stage. She's pissy, twitchy drunk." And so she was on the stage, and Mercedes and Autumn start to fight. And then this is when Uncle Clifford said, "All right, we have ourselves a cat fight." And so this is when Mississippi turned that. I mean, this is when Mercedes turned that mistake that Autumn into a performance and everything. And so, of course, the audience was basically getting excited again due to the fact that they thought that they were actually seeing a cat fight. It really wasn't a cat fight. I mean, it was a cat fight, but Mercedes put it to a point where it was like a part of the act. And so they finished, and Mercedes asked, tell her, "Don't bring your drunk self out on that stage again. Stay off of my pole. And for the sake, why don't you go ahead and take yourself home and basically do what you got to do, take care of yourself." So Autumn says, "Why do you care?" And so this man Mississippi said, "I don't care, but what I do care is basically about my safety, and I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want you to get hurt either again. So don't ever put yourself on my pole again. Go home." And so Mississippi, um, I guess, well, she went home. She went home, right? So, of course, we know that Little Murder. Little Murder basically was having some issues and challenges with his music, and he has suggested that uh, Uncle Clifford has suggested that Little Murder might want to get with the DJ and basically perhaps the DJ, the little DJ, which is basically in high school. Little Murder went to pick up, the DJ and stop, and so he could basically hear the music and everything. And the dialogue, I really didn't understand that dialogue. All I heard was letters and something else didn't really, come together. And so this is when the DJ suggested, "Why don't you come home, with me?" And so this is Little Murder said, "Well, your mother and I, we almost, got together, and you gonna be my stepson and everything." So we see that Adam and Andre. Adam and Andre decided that they wanted to take this trip to, I guess, that they call this mystery favorite tourist site. So we see them racing up the mountain. And so this is when Andre wants to get to know Autumn a little bit more. And so they agree to, start sexing again, but this time it's going to be the real deal, right? Going to be the real deal. And so we see the two of them bust into this hotel room, right? They all hot and heavy and everything. And one thing led to another. And Andre, wanted to basically, get down. And this is when Autumn says, condoms? He said no. And all the while, Autumn basically had a plan because she was basically over there looking at Andre's laptop. And so we see that there's a plan to get a hold of that laptop. And how she, got the hold of that laptop, she says, we need condoms. So he says, okay. So he goes down, Andre goes down and tried to get condoms from the clerk desk. The clerk desk, the clerk looked at him and said, we don't have condoms. But what we do have is that we have a Bible in every room. And the only reason why he basically said this is because he saw the ring basically on uh, Andre's finger. So Autumn was able to get inside of Andre's laptop because Andre releases the passcode, and she tells Andre she wants her little cootie can to basically stay hot so that she can stay communicated with him by way of the laptop. But of course, we know that was the way for her to get information out of the laptop. And so we see that yeah, Andre is around town basically looking for condoms. He basically was able to get condoms, and so we see that Autumn hears him basically coming through, and when he gets ready to come through, we see that Autumn has went into particular files, various files, and in those files we see that Autumn sees a picture of her, and this is when Andre busts into the door and see that um, Autumn has basically found the file with her pictures, and she is not in the room waiting for Andre. Meanwhile, Mercedes' mother is basically having a meeting at the church, and the deacon in the church or the pastor in the church is getting ready to do a trip. And so he was basically talking about someone to basically take his place while he was at this convention. Now, Patrice has been aspiring and has been itching to get up on that pulpit. And so the pastor basically told the group who will be basically doing the substitute while he was away. And then one of the deacons had the nerve enough to say, because Patricia made a little statement saying that, why would you want someone who can preach change when I can basically preach for to reach and make people go into their pockets and give up the money? And this is when one of the deacons said, so, that's where your daughter basically get that from. And then Patrice basically got upset with this, basically what he said. And this is when she says, let no one basically cast the last stone. So in other words, little man, well, he wasn't little, but she says, don't really talk about other people sinning because you all up in the club throwing the money at my daughter, okay? And so we see that Little Murder has dropped off the DJ at the club, right? Little Murder has dropped off the DJ at the club, and Uncle Clifford has basically noticed that the DJ is basically coming in a hoopty. And so this is when Uncle Clifford said, well, when did you start coming in, and when did Mom start having a hoopty? And so Uncle Clifford comes sort of put two and two together, and Little Murder was basically murdering, I guess, the DJ's, uh, the mother. He was guessing uh, doing his thing with the mom, right? And so we see Mississippi. Mississippi gets it, and we're basically performing in the club, and we see a scene where Mississippi, we get a chance finally to see Mississippi's abusive boyfriend comes into the club with a flower. So she, goes off with him, and then we see another scene where Gidget, boyfriend, basically comes into the to the scene. Now, Gidget's boyfriend is basically the one who's basically been driving across the state with all kinds of oxycons, and this time he had a load of weed. And so he basically told Uncle Clifford why it took them so long to basically deliver the weed and everything. In the meantime, we see that Mercedes girls are basically at the party. And so Mercedes girls uh, went to where the party was getting ready to get was going, and one of the little boys said, "What bad bitches that one?" And one of the other little boys said, I don't think that she's a part of it. I think somebody's getting ready to get into some deep shit." And so we see that Mercedes had basically busted up this party, and the little girl was basically who gave the party was basically trying to get away with it. So while Mercedes was basically dealing with the girls, uh, we have Uncle Clifford. Uncle Clifford basically was talking to Andre about his ears could use some more tea. So, in other words, Autumn gave him more information about what really was going on with that casino, and we know that Uncle Clifford and them are not really, really a part of that casino. And while we're dealing with Uncle Clifford and the casino, we find out that Mercedes basically has a daughter, which was interesting. Mercedes has a daughter, and the daughter was basically really, really upset due to the fact that Mercedes gave up her custody, I guess, to the brother-in-law, or I don't know, but we find out that the woman who has custody says that she doesn't want her the daughter to basically be a part of the dance because she's not really focused. That's all she wants to do is to get more likes and to get more focus on her. And so this is when Mercedes basically told, well, I can't really do anything about it, but because you basically do have custody. So she wants Mercedes' daughters to no longer be a part of the group. And so while we are dealing with this, we see Uncle Clifford telling Autumn that she needs to do one more thing for him. I mean, for her. And this is when it was a setup. We see the setup to begin. We see Big L and we see Andre. Andre has been invited to come to the Paradox Room. And the Paradox Room where Autumn is supposed to be at, right? But of course, Andre gets to the Paradox Room, and Big L basically tells Andre what's the code. What's the code? Andre says apple, and so he, basically go into the paradox room, and we see the paradox room where there's a big chair, and this is when Andre began to explain and go into explanation as to why Autumn's picture was in that laptop. And then this is when Uncle Clifford basically turns around. And so this is when Uncle Clifford said, okay, looks like there's some more information. Looks like some tea is not being spilled. How come I don't see the paradise in this fan? What's going on? And so this is when Andre said, I can't really tell you all of that. Everything is kind of secret. And this is when Andre started quoting and telling Uncle Clifford, yeah, you have some violation going on into this club. Uh, I can't tell you nothing. I ain't going to tell you nothing. And so this is when um, Uncle Clifford tells Andre, basically, I ain't going nowhere. I don't care what you all try to do. I ain't going nowhere. And of course, we know that AKA Autumn. Autumn's basically is going back to collect her 9,000 money that she had transferred over to where she is at this point. And so the woman tells AKA Autumn or Miss Savage that she was already getting ready to just about in another 30 minutes she would not have that $9,000. So we see Savage, and of course the clerk told Autumn that, oh, you look ugly. And so it don't matter whether or not if she look ugly or not. Just know to the fact that AKA Autumn Night, and we don't know Haley is another one of her alias, has just got $9,000. We don't know where that $9,000 going, and we don't know why she drew it out. But what we do know that it's a whole lot of stuff that's going on deep down in the dirty, dirty South when it comes to P.valley, the pink. And we don't know. The closer we get to this, because AKA Haley, Autumn Night, has $9,000. Uh, Mercedes' daughter knows that Mercedes is her mother. um, Mercedes don't know whether or not if she gonna get that 20 stack, because she did go to her mother and tell her mother that she went back to her mother and told her mother that she needs that 20 stack. I don't think she gonna get that 20 stack, but even though she told Mercedes that she would get it, that she could come and pick the check up. So this is my review on High Grounds in the dirty, dirty South. And I'll see you again, perhaps on Monday, maybe sooner on Sunday. We really don't know. Peace and love, and make sure you remember that love is for everyone and that we are still in a pandemic. And of course, one of my mantras is to protect yourself, put on your mask, and wash your hands. Hopefully, we will be coming out of this soon. Take care.